Hi, this is Pat Moorhead, and we're here with the 6.5 on the road in Maui at Qualcomm Snapdragon Summit. It's always a great time to be here, great place to be. I mean, literally, we're doing this in Maui. Can you believe this?
I never complain about it. And, you know, we do a bunch of these because, you know, on the road, we're talking to, you know, we'll be talking to Ignacio here soon, but we talked to Cristiano Lamont, we talked to Don McGuire, talked to a bunch of great, thoughtful executives here. And the only problem is that you've got this picture of the beach, but like 100 feet that way
is the beach.
Yes. But you know what? If we have these great conversations, it gives us some time to reflect on all the cool technology and the announcements from Qualcomm, and then we could meander down that way.
That's exactly right. And I mean, we are talking graphics, we've been talking processors, we've been talking AI, camera technology, but quite frankly, when it comes to Qualcomm, connectivity is at the center of all of this, and it's my distinct pleasure to invite Ignacio into the show. How are you doing, my friend?
Excellent, Pat. Thanks, Dan, for having me here.
Yeah.
And happy to have you here as well, back in Maui for the Snapdragon Summit.
Yeah, and by the way, I do, just if you were wondering, I do prefer Hawaii over New York. This is the 5th Snapdragon Summit. First one was in New York, and then it was Maui, Kauai. Was it Kauai?
Two Mauis and a Kauai.
Two Mauis it's been always in Maui, but we have last year one in the Big Island.
Okay, the Big Island.
Yes, but you are a veteran on this one. You attended the very first one in New York. So
yes.
You have seen this kind of growing and more people in the community joining us for each of these great announcements.
Well, the whole ecosystem is expanding. I mean, Snapdragon's become a really big thing. I mean, if maybe next year if we get automotive here, you can just see just how comprehensive it's become. But you know, you got PC, you got mobile, you got gaming, you got connectivity, you got AI. It's getting to be really exciting. And obviously, you know, your world is connectivity and all things. So maybe we start off there and just, you know, what's the big updates on the connectivity front here that you were able to announce?
Well, there are updates in terms of connectivity across all key technologies, 5G, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth. And this is very important because the way I like to say it is that connectivity is like the air, right, of our connected experiences or mobile experiences. You don't forget about it, it's invisible, it's around, you assume it's out there, but when it's lacking, you start like, your phone starts like heart breathing, and then you have an alarm, okay, something going wrong there. But that's why it's so important at the end, even if that's invisible, sometimes unnoticeable, that we put a lot of effort, investment, and time engineering into what it goes in terms of connectivity.
Now, see, I can barely function without connectivity. I was at lunch the other day, and like all of a sudden my phone would not connect, and I swear to God, I was with my whole family, and I didn't talk the rest of the time. I spent the entire time trying to turn off Bluetooth, turn on wireless, turn off wireless, just to get connected again. Well, so you were saying you can't breathe. It is legitimately like,
yes, your phone just trying just to connect. Like,
by the way, you may not have been alive in 1980, but I was. It was boring. Nothing connected. The only way things connected was over UHF and VHF and maybe cable.
I'm super glad you picked 80 though, because I wasn't alive.
No? Okay, there we go. There we go.
Playing with sound.
Almost though. We were close.
Yes.
So, Qualcomm is one of the few companies that actually does research. Like, I know the industry would love to say R&D, but you do not only the foundational research, sometimes 10 years before something has been productized, and you also productize these great parts, and whether it's a modem, whether it's, you know, with Bluetooth, whether it's, I mean, pretty much you're connecting everything in every ways, and we even saw what you were doing with satellites. Or what some of your customers are doing with satellites. It's pretty incredible. But I have to ask, I mean, you've had such a first-to-market mentality, but I have to ask anyways, how do you stack up against your nearest competitors? And not the stuff maybe they've talked about, but the stuff that actually isn't going to be in market.
I can comfortably say that it's not just because I work at Qualcomm, but Snapdragon is at the leading edge, and I can give you the facts on that. For instance, on 5G, we're rising the bar yet again, it's the benchmark for 5G connectivity. Now, in the new Snapdragon, we just announced the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, we are now mixing for good 5G and AI. So we use AI now, rather than putting more silicon or more components into the problems, we're now using AI to more intelligently manage your connection and get a number of benefits. For instance, we're using AI to manage millimeter wave beamforming. What happens is that with your phone, when you're moving with millimeter wave, in this hotel there's plenty of millimeter wave. This is probably the hotel with the best 5G connection worldwide. But as you move with your millimeter wave device, you're always like under multiple beam candidates. There's one beam connected to the base station, but there are always a handful of candidates that are present, could be through reflections or direct line of sight, to maintain the connection with the base station, with the cell tower as you move along. With the new Snapdragon, we're now using AI to predict what will be the next beam that will work best to maintain your connection. And in that way, we're able to improve by about 25% the reliability of the millimeter wave connection. We're also using AI to classify, right? AI is very good machine learning, very good in classification, to classify the base stations around you. So if there's one that is showing poorly in terms of the quality of connectivity, we disregard that and connect to another one that's known to be good. We're using AI on location as well within the same Modem-RF system to understand if the signal that you're receiving from the GNSS satellite for location, GPS, Baidu, and others, you have direct line of sight, or what you're getting is a reflection. As we are able to classify those signals, we know this one is a direct line of sight to the satellite, and we can therefore improve location capabilities. So you can see, and you will see overall in the announcement, we're using AI prevalently, right, throughout the architecture and the Snapdragon functions with the new Snapdragon, and connectivity is not a part. We're using AI significantly. And just one example on how we are applying those 10 or more years of R&D in terms of AI, and put that into commercialization and getting tangible benefits for user experiences.
So to sort of double down on Pat's question, this is what you believe is a standout differentiator right now versus your competition, is the application and the way you're utilizing AI.
It's just one.
Well, okay. So in fairness, let me give you a second here, because Pat asked you, and he said, "What are the things that you really truly believe are standing apart?" Because I'm gonna make you talk a little more about the AI. We're not done yet with that, but before we go on, do you have a few other things that come to mind that have really been your standout differentiators that are sort of creating the bigger gap between Qualcomm?
Yes, absolutely. In terms of speeds, for instance, we are now in our second generation of 10 gigabit 5G solutions, while others are not there yet, right? And that speaks on the ability to manage signals, to aggregate spectrum, to be able to, again, keep Snapdragon users, or the use of phones and devices that use Snapdragon, at the leading edge in terms of connectivity. We also have the most comprehensive carrier aggregation capabilities, like four carriers on the downlink on sub-6, uplink carrier aggregation, switch uplink, millimeter wave and sub-6 aggregation as well. That's how you get the fastest speeds overall, but also how you get good signal if you're in the stadium, if you're in a crowded environment. That's why you are the one who's able to upload that social media post while the guy next to you cannot, because you're able to use the spectrum in a better way.
I've been at the Camp Nou, and I'm telling you, I can never get anything up. I don't know if you've been there before, but at MWC, I've gone to games at Barcelona soccer games, and you're exactly right. I can never, on a other device made by a fruit company, get those uploads working.
I know.
Fruity. They are.
Can
we say Apple?
Sorry, I don't know. I only use phones with Snapdragon,
Well,
so I can't tell about others.
As we know, we carry many devices as analysts. That's our job. We have certain ones that our kids sometimes prefer to text us on.
That's right.
That's the story. I don't know, maybe at next summit we'll have that fixed eventually too. We're gonna have the messaging all lined up. That's not your thing though, so we won't hit you up.
And we're always pushing the boundaries, and
I know
we
you
plan
are.
to use
I
that
know
at
you
Mobile
are.
Congress again.
And it's not over. It's this game has not been decided. But on the AI front, just circling back to that question, you mentioned that on the X70, all these great AI-driven features. How hard was that to do? Because that's been one of the big winners, I think, for you guys. It's just been doing the hard stuff, like the 5G RF modem system. I mean, that's why you've led in that mobile RF front-end business, because you did the hard stuff. This sounds like this is some of the hard stuff, and it's really creating a differentiation.
Yes, I think it's leading edge, right? It's something that nobody tried. There are no books to show you how you can use AI to enhance wireless connectivity overall. We know very well how to use AI now to improve and manage images, right? Voice recognition, but for wireless connectivity, it's something absolutely new, and we're just peeling the onion on what features we're going to enable and enhance with AI, but this is not going to stop. It's going to go forever as we go into 5G, 5G Advanced, 6G, and so forth.
He said 6G.
Oh, did I miss that?
He just said 6G.
Did he really?
Of course, we're going to be, again, we're part of the research and future of wireless, and yes, at some point we will be there as well.
But hey, the here and the now, the X70, you also talked about it having the first standalone 5G millimeter wave. Can you talk about what that means from a user and maybe a carrier perspective?
Yes, I will first address your question then in terms of how hard was to do AI, because for instance on the baseband, right, on the 5G baseband itself, the networks that we're running are fairly lean, right, they're fairly multi-layer networks overall, but it's latency the issue. Again, when you're dealing with 5G speeds, a millisecond, it's a long time. So the latency needs to be very, very small, and you need to be able to process those inferences very, very quickly. That's why we have our AI processor integrated, right, into the modem in the baseband itself. So it's not about managing big models, but you need to be able to do inferencing very, very quickly to be useful as well. And the other, of course, we were able to use many of the simulations, right, and techniques that we have developed many, many years in studies, and use that to feed and train the networks offline and port them into the modem. So you can, again, see improvements like 20% improvements in speeds on sub-6.
Seems like it'd be beneficial to share this information between devices or maybe with carriers. Is this something that this capability can do once it learns which base stations might not be working the best?
That might be part of the future. Right?
Yeah.
Right now, we're putting a lot of our knowledge and the experience that we have in collecting data and managing simulations, right, into the training. But yes, what I said before, this trend of using machine learning is true machine learning, not marketing AI, into 5G connectivity and wireless connectivity. We're just at the start of that. Well,
and it's very similar to, with Ziad, we talked about the benefits of doing AI on the edge for different use cases, and you've really talked about how you're using it on the RF side. Very similar to where people had tried to do what I think you're doing at the base station between that, but it wasn't quick enough to do the switching. So this is great stuff. So can I get to my standalone question here?
Yes. You get that.
I want to know about it. What does it do?
Well, 5G, the concept of millimeter wave standalone that we introduced with the Snapdragon X70 Modem-RF system, the same one that we're putting on the new Snapdragon, is the idea that you can sustain a 5G connection using only and nothing but millimeter wave spectrum.
Okay.
As of today, to have a millimeter wave connection, you still need to have an anchor. The primary connection is still on sub-6, regular.
Typically the reason why you might have a slower uplink speed when you're doing maybe a speed test. Is that right?
It's more that you're depending. You can still use millimeter wave for the uplink.
Right.
So you can still have very fast uplink overall, but you're still depending on that sub-6 spectrum, right? And there are many carriers, for instance, in many regions that might not have sub-6 spectrum or might not have the sufficient sub-6 spectrum to be able to serve many devices.
Right.
And that's where millimeter wave standalone is important, because you can use millimeter wave only connections for fixed wireless access, for instance. So if a carrier that does not get access to a lot of sub-6 spectrum, let's say a wireline carrier that's just entering into the wireless space, but you can access to a significant amount of millimeter wave spectrum, you can use that to provide fiber-like speeds to homes, an alternative to cable, an alternative to fiber, and be able to provide connectivity and help close the digital divide. We're seeing a lot of interest on that, and we're working, for instance, with Fastweb in Italy. That's a classic example.
Right.
It's a wireline operator that now is seeing the potential, right, of using millimeter wave spectrum to provide internet services to home, small businesses, and they're very interested, and we're working with them on using that millimeter wave standalone capabilities.
And this would be in like a FWA type of
Yes.
implementation.
Yes. In fact, what's funny that as we see more fixed wireless access, that line that divided the wireline operators versus the wireless start becoming more blurry, right? You see now a lot of operators like Verizon in the United States, Fastweb in Italy, and others using 5G, particularly 5G millimeter wave, to provide fixed access to many customers. And now also you see the traditional landline operators start seeing the potential of using 5G to connect people. India. You will see in India probably one of the best examples of that transformation and the use of millimeter wave along with sub-6 or not to provide.
What are they doing differently? I mean, if India is going to be the best or could be the best, what are they doing differently? Is it that they don't have the sub-6? They just had the auctions for a spectrum across sub-6 and millimeter wave spectrum just a few weeks ago. And even you can say, oh, they started late, right? Because they auctioned the spectrum more than 3 years after the first 5G networks were launched. But what you will see in India is now that the whole ecosystem for 5G is built, they plan to move very aggressively to take advantage of that. Reliance Jio, one of the main operators there, they already stated that they want to use 5G to help connect 100 million households in India. And think about that's 1/3 of the all households that are in India overall, and a lot of that using this 5G millimeter wave without sub-6 spectrum or not. That will be a tremendous transformation from the country. So the way I think about this is that if 2G was transformational, let's say for Europe, 3G was particularly relevant for regions like United States, Korea. 4G for China was very important, even if they were a bit late in terms of the internet massification in that country. I think we'll see with India a tremendous use case and example of how transformative really can be 5G technology.
So let's come full circle and sort of get back to a technology that's near and dear to many of our hearts. It gets us often connected on airplanes. It's often what we're using in our hotel rooms.
Sometimes.
Not very well, but you're working hard to make Wi-Fi better. Something that I think everybody would appreciate. And whether it's Wi-Fi 7 in the future, what are the big Wi-Fi announcements? What's on your mind there here at Snapdragon Summit?
Yeah, 2 words, Wi-Fi 7.
I just said Wi-Fi 7.
Huh? How about that? You called
I
it.
felt the need to make sure everyone knew I was right.
There we
first.
go.
Okay.
No, but it's very important. If we were talking before, like connectivity is like air, right? That fuels your mobile phones, your mobile experiences. That's also important, not just outdoors, not where you're using 5G network, but also in the places where you live the most, at your home, at your workplace overall. And Wi-Fi 7 will be like the air purifier that you can bring into those places, and you'll have a new experience with Wi-Fi 7. What's important there is that it brings more spectrum. And we know spectrum is critical at the end for the quality of mobile experiences. And now we're doubling with Wi-Fi 7 the amount of spectrum that we can manage using 5 or 6 gigahertz spectrum overall to have more responsiveness, more throughput. One thing that's unique on how Qualcomm is bringing Wi-Fi 7 to many users worldwide is the use of what we call high-band simultaneous multi-link. If you think about carrier aggregation in 4G and 5G and the benefits that carrier aggregation brought, we're applying the same concept now to Wi-Fi. We're able, with high-band simultaneous or HBS multi-link, now able to aggregate 2 channels in Wi-Fi across 5 or 6 gigahertz of a spectrum, and then aggregate the throughput and have a wider pipe for all your data. That's something that's only available as of today with Snapdragon. And that's very important for countries that don't have access yet to 6 GHz spectrum for Wi-Fi, like China, for instance. This is the only way that you will see meaningful improvements in speeds versus Wi-Fi 6 generation. So if you want to have a solution that's able to provide faster and better Wi-Fi connectivity worldwide. It's not just about Wi-Fi 7. It's Wi-Fi 7 with these high-band simultaneous multi-link capabilities. I can carry aggregation on 5G to take things to the next edge.
Say that 5 times fast.
No, exactly. What's really cool is yet again another example of how Qualcomm is improving Wi-Fi using some of the methods that it learned in cellular. I mean, a few years, it was so funny when your market share was low in Wi-Fi, you came in and had a kind of a multi-node, 3-node network inside of the house, right? That miraculously, those little nodes were like little towers. And you would move through the house and it would move and it would determine which one to talk to, and it would do that. And you were the first one there by, gosh, 2.5, 3 years lead on that. And it looks like once again, you're putting the pedal to the metal and using these technologies that you used in a segment over in Wi-Fi. And just when you thought Wi-Fi couldn't get better, it keeps getting.
Yes, that's
Some
always
extent, I was thinking it couldn't get worse. I don't know, on my flight yesterday, but
well, it's that last mile. I mean, it's this end to end. I mean, we need something between the plane and the ground here, right?
We do. Well,
a little bit more.
And Pat, going back to your some of your original comments in terms of Qualcomm participating strongly on R&D. One of the questions I receive a lot is, okay, how can you have a Wi-Fi 7 product? Wi-Fi specifications are not expected to be out there, finalized until the end of 2023.
Right.
How you can offer a Wi-Fi 7? Well, when you are the one doing R&D and helping write those specifications, you know what will be there.
Right. You know the wiggle room of the spec, which could change. Well, just like you did, I mean, you had millimeter wave before the millimeter wave spec was
we announced our first 5G product solution in 2016, 3 years before 5G was there. Of course, there's something that you keep improving and refining. There's a lot of software also that also it has the flexibility to adjust as the specifications are finalized. But when you are into that process, you know what's coming. You are able to be a little bit ahead of the curve.
This industry is sort of the personification of continuous improvement. I mean, it is all about making it better and then making it better and then making it better, and ideally, it's somewhat a ubiquitous way for all of us. It's getting better, it's getting better. And suddenly, God, this app, this connectivity, it works so well. And you didn't even realize, and you kind of forget a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the problems you had with certain apps and certain tools that just work and just work. And that's the stuff you guys are building.
Well, and the industry used to be in a stovepipes, right? It had, 3G, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and almost nobody was working together. But in the end, they figured out the RF. And now, what's kind of cool is all those things under one house, including satellite, the ability to play and move off. Because a consumer, they generally don't care about the technology, they care about the experience and the ability to seamlessly move and have devices work together, interoperate with each other, get the content you want down, get the content you want to share up and to all your friends, and for it to work and be reliable and not cost an arm and a leg. That's what they want.
So all that RF, does that mean Qualcomm is the leader in analog transformation?
Going back in circles.
I was waiting to say that. That's been on the tip of my tongue.
It's all, yes. In connectivity and wireless connectivity, you have half digital, but at the end, things turn analog. And you need to be very good at that as well.
Write a book about it.
No, I'm going to write the analog transformation.
Oh my gosh.
You wrote the digital transformation book. So.
Ignacio Contreras, thank you so much for joining us here at the 6.5 on the road here at Snapdragon Summit. It's great to have you. It's always great to chat with you. Everyone out there, thanks so much for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button. Watch all 9 of these shows here from Snapdragon Summit here in Maui. Pat and I are suffering out at the beach. We hope you don't mind suffering here with us. In all seriousness, great time, great show. Ignacio, good stuff. We'll see y'all later.